Hello, Let's Do Video viewers. Welcome back and welcome to the boardroom for the first time. Tsahi, can you please introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Tsahi Levent-Levi. I'm the person behind blog Me and WebRTCcourse.com. I deal with everything that is related to WebRTC, CPaaS, a bit of all of the AI stuff, again in real-time communications, and helping companies build their products and systems with architectures, training, and consulting.
And I appreciate you being here. The reason I have you here is ever since WebRTC first came across my radar, 15 years ago, was it now about? Something like that?
Something like that in 2011.
Yeah, I immediately caught your writing, and you very quickly established yourself as one of the leaders in the space. I was writing a lot about it, but you were going far more in depth than I was, and it was a big thing. It changed, the way that we do video, and now it's been some time. WebRTC is not a new interesting thing. It's part of the infrastructure. Even companies that historically were against WebRTC, like Zoom, really prefers user and client. They got WebRTC now. You can use
Yep.
that in a browser. So I was wondering if you can give us a quick, state of the art, state of the technology. I know it's a lot to ask. You could probably give me 20 hours on it, but if you can give me like a 3 or 4 minute to get us up to speed on the latest and greatest in WebRTC today.
I think it starts with what WebRTC is here to do. Okay, if you think about it, with video, we've had the issues of interoperability all the time. You buy a system from Tandberg, connect it to Cisco before they acquire Tandberg, it doesn't
Mhm.
work. Or it does, but not with security, and that feature doesn't work, and this one doesn't work. So you were always kind of stuck in between and had to deal with security. I was part of that industry at TradVision, and a lot of the work that we did was around interoperability, just testing and making sure that it works with other platforms. One thing that you couldn't do was run these things inside the browser. And now 2010, 2011, the browsers were important, but not as they are today. And then Google came out along with W3C, and they ended up with adding WebRTC into the browser. It is essentially a kind of a media stack. So it's a media engine just built into the browser. So similar to what you have inside any video conferencing unit, but it's built into the browser with a standardized API. So now every developer that uses a browser can make use of WebRTC and build applications on top of it. And the end result was saying, well, you know what? We don't need interoperability anymore because we can simply launch URL and you're inside the call, no matter which system it is that you're using. So for room systems, that might be tricky. Again, not today because they use Android and then they have a different solution for that, which is just go put apps on it. But in browsers, you can just go and run your own service. Now, the end result or what happened because of that is that we now look at communications not as a service. I don't go to AT&T or even to Tandberg or Cisco or Microsoft to buy a communication service because communications as it is a kind of a feature in something else. What does that mean? Let's say that I need to visit a doctor remotely. How do I do that? They send me a link to something. It's not going to be Zoom. It's not going to be WebEx. It's not going to be Microsoft Teams, and it's not going to be Google Meet. It's going to be the solution of that provider, where the only thing that I see would be a link that connects me directly from a browser or an app to that specific system. You've got today Doximy and Teladoc Health and a lot of other vendors across the globe doing things like that, um, where what they offer is not the communication itself, but rather the whole experience that you need between a doctor and the patient. So they would do the HIPAA compliance part and storing the data and knowing the patient data records in there and doing the scheduling and all of the other things that video conferencing companies or UCaaS companies would never do for you. So WebRTC enables now everyone to just stitch communications directly into their application as an additional feature. So we took something that was a service and made it into a feature.
Nice. That's a great summary, and it really changed the game because like you said, we used to have these. We used to call them video endpoints. It's something that could take the video, take the audio, and put it across, and then take the signals back and put it back out. And there used to be a device that you'd buy from Tamberg or Polycom back in the day, and then it had to be an app. You had to run the Zoom app. The app was the endpoint. The app took the data and made it into video, the Microsoft Teams app. But you had to have the app for each service, and the app gives you perfect quality. They really lock down the experience, but there are sometimes when you don't want to, like your doctor's office example, they might not trust their data to some third-party app. They just want it on their website. And what WebRTC did, it just made every browser, well, at first it was Chrome, I guess, and then it became Firefox and others, but it turned browsers into the app. So everything can be, your website can have audio and video interactive. And at first I felt it was, back 15 years ago, it was a trade-off. And the trade-off was, wow, is this accessible? Could be on any website. Wow, is this convenient and affordable? You don't have to build an app now. You just turn it on your website. And the trade-off was the quality wasn't quite there. And since it's if you're using, for example, Chrome, no matter what service you're using, the WebRTC is going to look like the same experience. It's Chrome's experience, and it wasn't as good, but I think it quickly caught up. There was a short period of time, and I think for years now, I don't think people complain about, oh, the video is not so good. I think we've gotten past that.
Yes, I think there are two things that you're missing. First of all, it's good enough. So it will never be able to compete with something that was built natively for a purpose device that does just one thing. But nobody cares anymore, or almost nobody cares.
It's gotten
the second
enough.
thing is, it depends what it is that you're building. Okay, I'll give 3 stupid examples. Okay, I want to do cloud gaming. Has nothing to do with communications. And yet you can now play high quality games that goes for the top of the line PlayStation 5 in terms of their graphics and everything on whatever machine that you want, on a Chromebook using a web browser, because it feeds you the video of the game in real time. The other one is, I have a client that is dealing with surgeries. They do remote surgery. No, they don't do remote surgery. Sorry, they do surgeries where doctors can join remotely to view the surgery in real time, because I have a new technique and I want to teach other doctors across the globe. Very niche. Okay, now in that one, you might need 2 or 3 different cameras and some other stuff. You can't get that from a video conferencing system, not really. And then another one does remote MRI scans. So you scan the person locally, but you do the whole work remotely. The actual radiologist is sitting remotely. So you need screen sharing for the screen of whatever is being shown on the MRI machine, and cameras for whatever goes in the room to see that they put the stuff on the person properly and he's actually there. So now it's again something slightly different than what you would do in a video conferencing.
So more flexible uses.
Yes, a lot more of them, because again, I'm no longer bound by the 100 or 500 engineers that know how to build video conferencing systems across the globe. I want to build something, I go do it with a WebRTC, and that's it. So
Now,
I think it just simply removed the barrier of entry for a lot of developers, and it reduced the friction for users, because they don't need to download anything and install anything.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed in the WebRTC community is the applications are sometimes really fun and clever and unique. Oh, I never thought of doing that on a website. I never thought of doing that with video. It's really not just chat and video conferencing. It's some clever stuff.
Yep.
So a question about the future. When I recover WebRTC, especially at first, it definitely seemed like it's an evolving technology and it's changing very rapidly. Has it reached maturity? Are we at WebRTC 2.0 where it's stable, it's good, we've agreed upon the way it's going to work, the browsers are all aligned, or After 15 years, does it still feel new?
Yes and no. And I don't know what the question was, but it's yes and no. So on one hand, it is stable, but it has been stable even before version 1.0 was announced. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Nobody cared. They just built apps and make it work for them. So they ignored the standardization efforts and simply went with what Google does in Chrome and then try to figure out how the behavior works in other browsers because there are slight differences. So the baseline will work everywhere. Then a few years ago in the pandemic, we started thinking, well, how do I do background replacement like we're doing here, or moving the persons to other locations and doing these kinds of things directly inside the browser. And apparently you can do that, and you had to make minor changes in WebRTC and add a bit of interfaces for that. So that was one thing. Then you had noise suppression and adding that on top of it. And all of these things come into play. What you've seen after that was let's scale it up. Let's do systems with 1,000 people in a room, broadcast to 10,000 people or to 1 million people. So there was a lot of focus on scale. Again, it changed nothing in WebRTC, but we started looking for solutions of architectures and infrastructures around that. And now we've got generative AI. And what would be the way today to give voice to an LLM? How do you do that?
Oh, I guess WebRTC would be one.
Yes, because where do you use your ChatGPT?
Yeah, in my browser.
Okay, so in the browser, if you want to talk to it, there are two ways to do that. The first one is a WebSocket, which is an ugly, slow technology, and it's great technology for signaling. For real-time media, not as much, especially not in the way that they've done it for voice. It's very wasteful.
Mm.
And then you start seeing WebRTC being introduced there in order to do things with a very low latency and high quality. So it started with OpenAI doing that. And then you had Google with Gemini having some support to it. And now you've got 11 labs adding WebRTC. And they're doing text to speech and speech to text, not the LLM part. But
Right.
they are adding these kinds of a technology directly into their code. So you're seeing a lot of vendors adding that support, and it becomes commonplace whenever you want to use voice bots, voice AI, or avatars. If you're going down the video route. And it's really interesting to see because obviously, what's the difference? You take a human, you replace it with a bot, it's obvious. And yet it's not. There are a lot of differences in how you do that and what now you're trying to achieve. So apparently there's a problem with latencies when you do a voice bot.
Oh.
Okay, and that's because the LLM might spew out data. Like you can get an answer of 1,000 words in 3 seconds, but the first word you'll get that in 3 seconds as well. So you need to accelerate that part. And
Right.
the text to speech engine that you were using got all of the text and then gave you a file again 3 seconds later for all of the audio. So how do I get it on one hand faster? On the other hand, not everything, because I don't want to do work when the person might cut me off in the middle. So we started dealing with new problems and trying to find solutions for them. And again, it was a question of how do you do these things with WebRTC? And then you've got codecs, AV1, a new video codec. Let's start playing with that and fooling around and seeing what we can get out of that. So it's evolving and changing all the time. And it's interesting. It's fun to work with.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like it's not just not just evolving to do a better job of what it's currently doing, but to meet new challenges and meet new, it's like become sort of the ready tool for the next thing that comes on the browser, whether it's AI or LLMs. That's what it's using to share our video and audio data. So
Yep.
it makes it a little bit more fun to cover.
Yes.
Any final thoughts for our viewers?
Go use WebRTC. Well, don't. You're probably using it already. If you've done anything that relates to voice and video online that is live, you've been using WebRTC already.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you may not know it, but you've been using it. And if you want to learn
Yeah.
more, check out this blog right up there.
Bloggeek.me. Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you everyone for watching. Take care.
Thanks, David.